Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan finally giving a real take on the whole thing that happened when people were trying to put guardrails on him and telling him he needs experts on his show. You know, from the Douglas Murrays to the Jordan Petersons to the Sam Harrises. He finally decides to give a real take on the whole thing. And, you know, at the end of this clip, I'm going to say it now, and I'll say it at the end of this clip. You know, why didn't he say this to Douglas Murray's face? He really should have said this to Douglas Murray's face. Now, I'm going to play this Joe Rogan clip. Then after that, I'm going to play a clip of Brett Weinstein talking about this whole thing. And then I'm going to play a clip with Matt Walsh and Tucker Carlson talking about this exact topic. And I think Matt Walsh is getting fired from the Daily Wire for this take. You got to wait till the end to see it, but I feel like he's getting fired. But anyway, let's play this clip.
That should be discussed, and should it be balanced, and do you have an obligation? Like, that's not what we're here for. What we're here for is to get down to business. So what he's doing is like putting you on the defensive right away, out of the gate. Yeah. Which is like, I recognized it. I'm like, okay.
No, you were perfect. You're perfect. The perfect person to handle that, because most people, when they start getting attacked, you get defensive, you attack back, right? It just changes the whole dynamic of the conversation. But you stayed pretty neutral on that, and
it's a trap. Yeah, it's a trap. It's like, you know, when someone gets in your face and they start yelling in your face, like, what are we doing? Are we fighting? Or, you know, I could like start yelling too. Yeah. And then maybe I won't be.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah. And then maybe I won't be paying attention to your hands, you know, or your shoulder movement, or whether or not you're going to hit me.
Yeah. See, that's a tactic. That's a fighting tactic.
100%.
He had the same tactic, but not for fighting, but for conversation.
Yeah. It's a tactic, you know, and then the thing of asking Dave, you've never been, like to dismiss and instead of having a debate on the issues, like, and this idea that expert, like Douglas Murray, I love him dearly. I think he's a brilliant man. He's got a degree in history, or excuse me, he's got a degree in English, bachelor's degree. Okay, he's not an expert either. Unless we're talking about Shakespeare, shut the f up, because like you're not an expert either. You know what I mean? Right. I don't have a degree in anything. I have 0 degrees in anything. But there's certain things that I'm an expert in. You want to talk about martial arts? I'm a martial arts expert. Like if you disagree with me, you have to be like, in order for me to have a conversation with someone where they disagree with me about martial, they have to be so much better. They have to be like Gordon Ryan. Right. You know, like, but I don't disagree with Gordon on anything. For him, like, that's a real expert. Again, no degrees. That's a real expert. I would just ask questions like, what do you do in this situation? What's the benefit of this versus that? And so you talk about it. Like, with these political issues, they're such a third rail. It's such a dangerous subject that people have like a group that they belong with, and then that group will support them if they go out and say these ideas, and then the other people have another group, and then this person's a representative of one group and they want to duke it out with the rep. Any reasonable person would look at Gaza and go, this seems kind of excessive. This seems kind of fucking crazy. Right. It seems kind of crazy that 70,000 people or whatever it is are dead, including women and children. Like, this is the only way to do it? Really? Any reasonable person. That doesn't make you anti-Semitic. It doesn't make you anti-Zionist. It doesn't make you anything. It just like doesn't make you pro-Hamas. Like, no, it could
be pro-human.
Yeah, human beings.
I don't think humans should be murdered.
Yeah. There's like, that sounds so reasonable. But the thing is, like, we never got into that. Because the conversation, you know, tactically, he entered into the conversation as, you know, because he doesn't have really a defensible position. It's very hard to say this is the only way to do it. Yeah. So what do you say? You say, you need better experts. You shouldn't be talking to this person. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. Like, why don't you have this? You've never been there. You should go there. Like, I am not going there. What the f are you talking about?
You're not even going to Brazil for another UFC fight.
Yeah, exactly. I don't go to Canada. Like,
not traveling out of the country.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's not what I'm interested in doing. I don't have to. Like,
well, what's crazy is, so he had that take about you, unless you're an expert or educated, you shouldn't be able to share this opinion. Yeah. But he'd had the opposite take before.
Oh yeah, which is hilarious because somebody put a video up of him arguing with him.
Completely opposite. So that, and I asked you about this, not with him, but I asked you, do you think there's like government plants? Because it's like, if somebody, I'm not saying him, I'm just saying just in general, if somebody changes their position so, I don't know.
I know. It's hard to know.
Who got to him and why did this happen? Because then I look around, we talk about the power of podcasts, and I see these podcasts, and it's just like, how did this podcast get every guest you could ever want and rise to the top in a heartbeat. When we know how it normally works, it works like you, decades, right, to get to the top. And then some people, so I'm thinking like, how did this happen?
Well, some people are really good.
No, well, Joe's going to take the level-headed approach. Good for him. You know, Jamie's rubbing off on him. But I'll tell you right now, and I think we all know this, there are some podcasts, just like there are some music artists, just like there are some actors who get pushed to the forefront of things just because they're willing to push a narrative. Funny enough, I don't even know what video this is for, but I had this written down. And I wrote down music streams, down to Hollywood, down to agenda pushers, down to divide and conquer, down to Kamala Harris, down to the line experiment. Now, what this actually means is, you know, music views, music streams, actors, podcast views, podcast contracts. These are all given to people who are willing, usually in Hollywood, usually have a background in either intelligence or in acting, like Zelensky, people of that nature. Kamala Harris was, you know, working into Hollywood, not just politics. You know, that's why she was, you know, Montel Jordan's, you know, girlfriend or whatever you want to call it. They usually have this background because they're willing to do whatever. When you're in intelligence, you're willing to do whatever you're told. You're following orders. When you're in Hollywood, you're willing to do whatever you have to do in order to become the next big thing. So those are the people who are primed for this type of thing. And then they become agenda pushers. They're going to do whatever they're told. They're going to push the agenda. They're going to date whoever they have to be seen dating. They'll even marry people, have kids with people. It'll all be a front. They're willing to do that. Tinfoil Speedo on, obviously. Shouldn't even have to tell you guys that. And the agenda is usually to divide and conquer. It's to divide and conquer. It's to push certain narratives. It's to make people feel like this one point, you know, sharp as attack. Biden sharp as attack. They're using this one thing. They're trying to push this one thing forward into the regular thought processes of the general public. And a good example was Kamala Harris. Cultural phenomenon. We all knew that wasn't true. But somehow, every news outlet was saying that. Joy Reid was saying that. Joy Reid was like, I'd rather vote for a corpse than vote for Donald Trump. Use Donald Trump as an example. How they made him seem evil in certain people's eyes. It was all a part of this thing. And the reason I said the line experiment at the end, if you don't know what the line experiment is, I did a video on this. There's 3 lines. One of them short. 2 of them are long. One guy is in a room. They're asking which line is different than the others. The guy who's in the room, along with a bunch of other people, there's one regular guy. The rest of the people are actors. Everybody says, you know, let's just say A is the short one. B and C are exactly the same. Everyone says B is the one that looks short. B is the one that looks short. And they keep doing it until the guy who's not an actor goes, okay, well, I want to be a part of the group. I don't want to seem dumb. I don't want to have this opinion that stands out from everybody else's. And he goes along with it. It's a real experiment. I should show it to you again, just in case you haven't seen it. But I just wanted to bring that up quickly. You can take your tinfoil Speedo off now.
Good. You know, and they could be really good right out of the bat. Right off the bat, they could be, you know, better at it. And then they get a good following. And then once it gets into the top 20 or whatever, then they can get good guests. You know, because when it comes to...
But that usually takes time.
Sometimes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wonder what would happen if I started the podcast today. If there was all the podcasts that were out right now, and I had never done a podcast, and I started today, and I did it exactly how I'm doing it. How long would it take before it catches on? I don't know.
I don't either.
I would suck, though. That would be a problem. I would suck and everybody would be watching. Because I sucked when nobody was watching, and I got better at it. I figured out how to do it. But as far as like Douglas, I don't know if anybody got to him or whether or not the group that he associates with thinks this way. I don't necessarily put everything inside of a grand conspiracy. It might be that he has financial ties towards certain things. You know, like he speaks at certain places. He sells certain books. He knows how he's selling them. I mean, or it might be just that's how he thinks about things too. There's sometimes people always think like, oh, somebody got to him. Like maybe that's just how he thinks.
Yeah.
Somebody has to think that way. Otherwise, that wouldn't be an opinion that's out there in the zeitgeist.
Normally, people don't switch 180 degrees on things, though.
Not true. See what he just said? Sometimes some people have to think like that. That's how it gets into the zeitgeist. Not true. Sometimes something is pushed and forced upon us. And there is a certain percentage of people who are able to be penetrated psychologically that way into their subconscious, into their mind, and then they spew it out. It goes right back to that Jordan Peterson clip that I played where he talks about, certain things that people say. It's like Satan is worked his hand up their spine and is working their mouth like a puppet. There's certain things, many things actually, that people have no proof of, they have no idea about, they've done no research in, but they are dead set that it's a real thing. Elon's a Nazi, Trump is evil, all Republicans are racist, all Republicans hate black people, like just weird things like that. Trust me, that's not actually true. And I will say this in the same breath. Okay, there might be some people, but there's certain things that you've seen in our past from 2020 up until now that were not true whatsoever and got forced into us.
Especially like that. Yeah.
I mean,
that's true.
Because if he's educated on things, if he's been around, if he's, the smart, wise person, you form this opinion based on that. You don't go 180 degrees the other way and change the complete opposite take.
Right. Unless you've been influenced.
It wasn't like you were just a kid and you didn't know, and now all of a sudden you're an adult. It's like, I can't believe I used to say that. He was an adult the whole time.
Right.
So how?
I don't know. You definitely could get suspicious for sure. But
I'm very suspicious.
I hear people say that about me too, which is hilarious.
But I said
like that I have like CIA
decades.
handlers.
I know, but
I've heard all that. I'm
decades,
like, okay.
dude. You've been doing this.
Yeah.
You're the OG. That's
I'm one
how
of
it
the
works.
OGs. Yeah. I think for sure people do get influenced, but I think people also allow themselves to get influenced because they have a financial interest in keeping a certain opinion because they know that the group that they belong to has that certain opinion. There's that. But the real problem with doing what he did was that it diminishes you publicly. Like if you really want to do that kind of a debate, if you really want to use those kind of tactics rather than a discussion of the issue, like you've never been, like that kind of stuff diminishes you publicly because everybody knows what you're doing.
Yeah.
Instead of just having a
Does
conversation
everybody, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody with an opinion I value knows what you're doing.
Right.
Because if you understand conversations, you understand you're not really engaging with the ideas. You're deciding whether or not a person should have these ideas or be able to. You've never been there. Like you can't. How can you have an opinion? At least you should do the courtesy. Like now I'm virtuous. I have been.
Right.
I'm elevated. I'm better than you. You are diminished. You haven't even been there.
Yeah.
Your opinion is basically meaningless.
Yeah.
And then it gets to this weird place where it's like, who's allowed to talk about what? You know.
That's what it just. The change was so abrupt and so opposite. I was just like, because you could think if somebody was, I don't know. Okay, here's an example. I had somebody offer me yesterday, if I would wear their hat, $5,000. So
with the hat and a bunch of on it.
no, it was just a brand. But so point is, there's value into doing this. So if somebody says, well, your voice is this powerful, or you can reach this many people, or this many people listen to you. So if it's a political party or a movement and they have this guy, we'll pay you this much to push this point.
It's possible. It's also possible that he views a guy like Dave Smith as sort of a dangerous upstart. Dave Smith has incredible recall, and he's very well read. I mean, he's a consummate consumer of information, and he's always reading books on different wars and foreign policy. Like, he's really into it. The way he explains it to me is like, because I'm always like, your recall's insane. He's like, yeah, but I could talk to you about a fight that happened 10 years ago, and you'll tell me exactly how it went down. Like, that's all it is. It's just, this is what I'm into.
Right.
It just, like, I'm not studying it for any other reason other than I'm fascinated by human conflicts, like global conflicts. And so
that's exactly how I feel about this podcast. Can't wait to see where this takes me. Also, I should work into the conversation. I'm slowly, because everything happens in phases. I've been telling you guys this for years. Slowly, once a week, on a day where Joe Rogan is not posting anything, which is usually Saturday, Sunday, I'm going to be posting an interview. That's how I'm going to do it. Nice and slow. Then over time, it's going to be over the weekend. Again, days he's not posting. Then it's going to become Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Again, days he's not posting. And we're just going to slowly phase into the interview phase of this podcast. But not much is going to change. Don't worry. But I figured I'd just let you guys know. Now, when it comes to everything we just saw, why didn't he say this to him? Why didn't he call him out and say, hey, you only have a degree in this. You're not an expert in this. Why didn't he, if he knew this is, because this is the thing. This is the thing. This is what you're supposed to do with, and I'm not saying Douglas is one, but kind of seems like one. When it comes to narcissists, you know what you're actually supposed to do? You're supposed to call out what they're doing. So if they're trying to make you feel guilty about something, you're supposed to say to them, you know, what you just said, and you probably didn't mean it this way, but it feels like what you were trying to do just now was trying to make me feel guilty because, you know, let's just say they're making you feel guilty because they have to go to work and make money and you're not lending them money and they're going to have to work overtime. And you can just say, you know, it sounds like you're trying to make me feel guilty because you're going to have to work overtime. And when you call that out, it stops them in their track because they know I can't play this game. I have to pull back, or I have to be a real person, a regular person. I have to stop playing these games. So that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to call out the games when you see them. You're supposed to call them. On this channel, I like to call out the mainstream news when I see them playing a certain game. I like to call it out. You have to call it out. So I don't understand why he didn't just say something. I know he said a little bit, you know, but he was more trying to ask questions and kind of revealing what Douglas was doing through that. He should have just outright said, what you're trying to do right now is make it so because Joe would ask the question, oh, well, what are you saying? Only people who are experts can ask questions, you know, or only people who are experts have the right to have an opinion. And he's like, no, I'm not saying that. He should have been like, this is what you're doing. You are doing this, you know, this is exactly the way he broke it down just now. I know Joe's not confrontational anymore. Back in the day, he would have done something like this when the podcast first started. Not anymore. And I get it completely, but I still wish he did. It would have been absolutely amazing if he just called it out. Now, I know, and let me know what you think about those interviews that I'm talking about. I've always wanted to do that. That's been the point of this channel the whole time. But I know to do things in phases. I've worked quite a bit in marketing and branding and helping people build YouTube channels. So I know that you're supposed to do things in phases. You'll just jump out. You know, exactly what Joe Rogan said. If he started the podcast today, what would it look like? Well, it would take even longer for his podcast to catch because he wouldn't be doing anything in phases. He wouldn't have any plan. He'd just be like, I'm just doing interviews. I actually have a plan, which is why my channel after 2.5 years is kind of working out for me. It's making it so I could be in a hotel room with my family in the other room. I didn't even know there was hotels that had 2 rooms. It's mind-blowing. But again, you know, when you plan, when you make plans, you actually you succeed. So let me know what you guys think about that whole thing. Let's get into Brett Weinstein talking about this whole thing as well.
The mechanism by which we discovered it is well known. It is the exact thing that the founders of this great country put first on the list of our enumerated rights for a goddamn reason. It was, they couldn't name a podcast. They couldn't have called out Joe Rogan, but they came as close as they could come to saying, sorry, there's no source of high quality information versus low quality information, malinformation, disinformation. You can't know ahead of time. The mechanism by which you come to understand what is true, Douglas, is discussion. It is discussion in which nobody gets to set the rules about what kinds of opinions can be investigated. And yes, that does cause some garbage stuff to be said, but what reveals that it's garbage stuff? Free and open inquiry that reveals that actually it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. That's how you do it, Konstantin Kisin. I don't know what's wrong with these people. It's really like somebody has figured out how to threaten them into saying things that they full well know aren't true.
They're becoming what they were fighting against.
They're becoming what they were fighting against. And I must say, in both of those cases, I feel like I don't think I was duped to begin with, that they actually held free speech as a high value. So the fact that they are backing away from it and calling for some kind of standard, self-imposed or otherwise, to prevent certain, you know, the fact is, Heterodoxy is heterodoxy, and it often sounds crazy, and most of it is. But the good stuff is the stuff that sounds crazy that then does strangely stand up to scrutiny. That's how you figure out what's coming, is you look at the heterodox stuff and you figure out what has predictive power. And you can't get around that. And the people who tried failed.
Man, I'm watching this clip blind with you guys. I didn't even know that he was going to touch on what Cameron Haynes touched on. And yes, it is like these people have been, he says threatened into this position. Who knows what it is? It's not always, speaking as a creator of myself, it's not always direct threats. Like when we are, as creators, are positioned to self-censor, there's no threat. There's a looming thing, but there's no direct someone saying to you, this is going to be what you say, or this is what happens. Something just kind of happens to you. I don't know. I don't know what it is with these guys. I know people want to point to one thing, but I have no idea what's making these people do this. No clue. And it's so obvious. That's the thing. It's so obvious. So whatever is happening, I don't know if it's self-imposed or somebody's pushing it on them, but they're doing it in such a bad way. Again, going back to what I said about my own podcast, having plans, having phases helps so much. And I'm not trying to help these people, coerce, you guys and other people, myself, into these positions that they hold now. But slowly I'm doing certain things with my podcast. Slowly I'm introducing these ideas. They're just like, done. I switched. Here it is. And everybody's just like, we can see you. You ever heard that Cat Williams bit? Like, I can see you. I can see you. Like, we all see. We can just go back 3 months into what you were saying, 5-6 months into what you were saying. And it's completely different than what you're saying now. You don't have that with me. You can go back. You can go way back. You can go back to the garbage interviews I was doing back in the day. I hold the same values, I didn't know to say tinfoil Speedo back in the day. I didn't warn people about putting on their tinfoil Speedo back in the day. But, if you're watching those videos, make sure you're wearing one. So this is that whole thing about self-censoring. I'm going to play it anyway. Let's go.
What did you think of the debate between Dave Smith and Douglas Murray on Rogan a couple of weeks ago? Did you watch that? And what
I did. I watched. I ended up watching. I wasn't planning on watching the whole thing, but I watched the whole thing. I'm constantly hearing from the peanut gallery demanding that I kind of give my verdict or my take on Israel and Israel versus Palestine and all this kind of stuff. And I have given my take, and my take is I don't care that much. I'm not just America first. I'm an American chauvinist in that I only care about my own country. I honestly don't care about other countries. I wish the people of other countries well. I think they all have a right to defend themselves, and they should. I think that if you can't defend yourself as a nation, or if you can't survive without being propped up by another government, say ours, then you shouldn't exist as a country.
Wait. If you can't exist without being propped up by another government, say ours, you shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Israel cannot exist without being propped up by the United States.
You think so?
Its nuclear program came from the United States. Its weapons come from the United States. Its economy is supported by the United States. I'm not attacking Israel. I'm just saying in point of fact, I think that's true. I mean, Israel thinks it's true, or they wouldn't have armies of lobbyists and influencers in the United States. Bibi wouldn't have shown up twice in the past 3 months.
From my perspective, it seems like they can handle themselves quite fine. But any country, if there is any country out there that fundamentally cannot exist without being subsidized by American taxpayers, then not only should that country not exist, but that country already does not exist.
So what do you guys think Matt's going to do? You think he's going to start his own channel, or do you think he's going to take a break for a while, or how do you think this is going to go? Because he's not working for the Daily Wire anymore. I'm just saying that's over with, right? So are you guys going to subscribe to his own channel that he makes, or you think he's going to start like a thing like Tucker, his own network? How's that gonna go? There's no if in this conversation. It's just when. So I guess I'll subscribe. It'll be great. Oh man. But it's funny, again, when you do these things in phases, whether it's me with my podcast and slowly evolving it, or whatever these guys are doing with their train of thoughts and how they're changing everything that they're saying. If you do things in phases, again, I'm doing what I'm doing in phases because I don't want to freak you guys out. I want slowly for you guys to be like, okay, see what's going on. I'm getting the stuff that I'm used to, and I'm also getting this new thing. Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I kind of like the new thing. Give you guys a chance to warm up to it. Back in the day when I would do this, I wouldn't talk. I'd play the Joe Rogan clip. I'd say a couple of things, and I'd be out. Now I talk a little bit, Some people still hate it. They're like, get off the screen. Your face is too big. I don't want to see you. I get it. But some people were like, I can't wait to hear what this guy has to say next. And I'm saying this because when you just abruptly change, like Douglas, like Constantine, which I'm so glad Brett called out Constantine, like Peterson, when you change just so on the dime like that, it causes so much more attention to what you're saying. And your audience that you had doesn't just get mad at the stance that you have. They get mad because they feel tricked. And now they don't know what's real about you and what's fake about you. They don't know where you actually stand. Because for the longest time, they thought you stood here, and then all of a sudden you switched and you stand here. It's a lot of the reason why Joe Rogan actually got attacked for supporting Trump. Because even people to this day are in my comment section. Joe's a Bernie bro. Joe's a Bernie bro. No, he's not. He made fun of, I'm watching a lot closer than most people, but he's made fun of Bernie. He's calling him out now. He supported him at one point. He doesn't support him anymore. And now he supports Donald Trump. It's a big change. A lot of people didn't like it. They didn't like the positivity about Trump. They kept hearkening back. And I know because I was trying to change people's thought process on this. I was like, Joe Rogan is defending Trump. Joe Rogan likes Trump. Here's the reason why. I kept making videos. I made dozens of these videos over and over and over again. I would make these videos and people kept hearkening back. They're like, no, man, he said he'd never help Trump. And it's like, but that was 5 years ago. It's different now. Like, things have changed now. So Joe Rogan did it in phases, but it was still, even still, he got backlash for how quick it felt to some people. So a lot of these guys, Douglas Murray, Constantine, Peterson, all these people, they're going to alienate their audiences so much. And it's bad for them, especially for Peterson, because I actually like Peterson. The rest of them I don't really care about. I love Peterson. I love what he's done for me. He's changed my thought process on a lot of things. So it's sad for him, but I guess the good part of it is it's going to give rise to new people who are actually going to stay firm in their stances, who aren't going to be able to be swayed. And now we have that as almost like a warning of sorts to say, okay, not that we can't be malleable, not that we can't change our thoughts as people, but we know what happens. And I'll just be frank. We know what happens if we all of a sudden take a check and change our stances. People get pissed. And now that's going to be a warning to all the creators out there. And it's going to bring about some real people. And we all know what's going to happen to the fake ones. Anyways, guys, just wanted to say that. I'm out.